Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're going to do a smaller build for Under the Sea, which is converting something very ugly into something hopefully a lot more beautiful. Yes, so today's build is for the 20,000 Bricks Under the Sea cabinet, and as it stands, this set is a bit big, so I want to do something about that. It is the wonderful Seabed Scavenger, set 8059 from 2010, from that Atlantis line, of course, with that lovely characteristic red colour with these bright green domes. Well, I think this is supposed to be used for deep sea salvage with this massive great big claw mounted to one wheel and a great big spinning blade on the other. But the thing I like about it most in its current setup is that lovely noise. I mean, it almost sounds like it's got a diesel engine that's sort of chugging along, if you ask me, but not for long, because we're going to be changing it. Anyway, before I get to that, I did want to firstly do a quick apology and a bit of a rant. Maybe I should put a timestamp on for when my rant will be over, but I don't think it'll be that long. Essentially, I'm doing a short video today because, well, I've spent the whole weekend basically trying to get to grips with my new wireless microphone system, and, well, in short, it hasn't gone well. Essentially, I bought these Rode wireless Go-Tos, and I've got two of the microphone and obviously one of the receiver with wires and all sorts of different combinations of software I've tried, placing the microphones and receivers in different places. I just haven't been getting on with it, essentially. And it's not because this is a bad product. If anything, it's a good product. In fact, it's too good. I think what it would really benefit from is me being a professional, essentially. But because I film through my phone, and because I operate largely from this build desk, whatever I've recorded in any sort of placement of either of the bits of equipment or whatever, it's incredibly echoey. It sounds like I'm talking into a bucket, like I'm Darth Vader or something like that, and it's just acoustically terrible. I just couldn't release it. I did lots of takes of different videos starting off, and it just wasn't going to be something that I'd be happy releasing. And if you think about it, a typical sound studio, it's covered in all that sort of bubbly foam stuff to keep the acoustics all lovely and sort of smooth and rounded. And here I'm staring at a blank window, which is completely dead on, completely sort of flat bouncing surface. And then I've got my computer monitor in front of that. And then I'm surrounded by glass cabinets and a wall. And basically it's like I'm sat in a cupboard with loads of reflective surfaces. So essentially it's acoustically awful in here, and you really can tell on a sophisticated bit of equipment like this. What I currently wear is just a headset, essentially, going straight into my phone. So, you know, I think maybe low tech is better for me, but I'd love to learn how to use this even better. But the other thing is, even when I'm using it in the Lego room, and I usually use this sort of handheld thing, clip my phone in here, plug in the receiver, it is incredibly sensitive in the fact that if I just change hands or even shift my hand position on the handle, the mic kind of picks it up, kind of like I'm rubbing the mic directly with my hands. And it's just an unbelievable sensitivity that is just unmanageable for the way that I film and use. And the fact that a wire's sticking out the side as well makes those close-up pictures even harder as well. So I don't know. I feel like I might have made a bit of a mistake in buying it, really. So, yeah, I'm going to probably keep persevering a little bit longer before I start putting this on eBay. Try and get some of my money back. But yeah, if you've got any great ideas, or you can instinctively think what I'm doing wrong, if you're a sound engineer, then do let me know. But short of changing this into a proper studio, I don't see how that's going to work. So, anyway, yeah, so, right, rant over. It isn't a massive problem, but it is the reason why we've got quite a short video today, which is playing around with my Seabed Scavenger. So this was basically part of a bulk buy that I got on eBay. I didn't want it for this set at all, but I got it nonetheless. And I thought, well, it is quite pretty underneath all of this external stuff. Maybe there's something I can do with it. I mean, the biggest problem with it, of course, is its vast size. I mean, we could get picky and say, well, there's kind of loads of gaps into the cockpit which should let the water in, though he is in full diver over gear, which means, well, why does he even need a dome in the first place, you could argue. Maybe it's the shark protection, I suppose. I'm answering my own problems with it. Also, we've got these Technic beams that are very visible and quite ugly, if you ask me. These huge wheels, I mean, it just take up far too much space in my cabinet. But if you kind of ignore that, ignore all this, and ignore all this, in the middle is kind of a very pretty looking kind of red, almost rocket shaped kind of ship in a way, isn't it? And I thought I could make that into a submarine. In fact, it very much reminds me of the space rocket from Tintin, if you remember that, with that sort of three-pronged sort of pointed sort of legs for it to stand up on. Not the Tintin submarine, of course, because that was a great big, what was it, shark or whale, killer whale? I don't know which one it was. You'd have to see which way the fin's going, I suppose. But yeah, so essentially the idea is to get rid of all of this outside stuff, get rid of the weapons and stuff like that, and even these flippers, which I keep knocking off because he's got to store them somewhere. Maybe even get rid of the lights and the rockets, because I don't know if we're going to need those in my cabinet. Well, maybe I should keep those on, so that's undecided. You'll probably need the lights after all. And then just see if I can make this look a bit more sort of sleek and streamlined, kind of like it's the Ferrari of the sea. So yeah, that's my plan there. And then it will just be one nod to the Atlantis range, which I haven't got anything else of in my cabinet, for a bit of nostalgia as well. So yeah, essentially that's what I want to do. Distill the good and get rid of all the lumpy. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is kind of strip this down. So I end up with that Tintin rocket, or maybe it's more like the sort of flying car from the Jetsons. And then we can put some propulsion on the back so this thing can get around. Though sadly, that means we will lose that lovely diesel engine sound. Cool, right, let's get going. Good. Well, there is most of the lumpy stuff off, and you'll see that it is very beautiful. I mean, it's almost like a spaceship, if you ask me, without us doing absolutely anything to it, or even a pod racer or something like that from Star Wars, maybe. Anyway, I'm going to go a little bit further and take out these large Technic beams, which I'm sure I can use elsewhere to support something like structural, but try and restore the rest, because I really like the front of this thing, I must say. It looks very good with this sort of bull nose on the front and then these stickered pieces. So yeah, I think that looks nice. We'll reinstall the man when we put the cockpit back in. But what I thought I would use is to keep that sort of streamlined look, kind of these wedge pieces, 3x10, is it? Yeah, one on each side like that. And that would enable it to kind of look like, well, yeah, a pod racer again. Like it's a huge engine beast that achieves massive speed under the water and zooms along like nobody's business. So I was thinking with that shape, it'd be very tapered at the back end, and the front end would have a massive, well, I suppose it'd be water intake there, sort of a massive engine type cover or something like that. And now to accommodate the man, I'm going to need something like this with some bracket pieces on the side to hold that new setup, and I figure it'll look something like this. So that on one side there, and this on there, and I want to keep this really low profile on the bottom, which is why I've staggered it like that, so we don't have anything kind of hanging out of the bottom here, spoiling those smooth lines. And then that would be kind of attached in there. Probably going to have to change there for the connection point to get it a bit higher up. And to have that really nice sort of air intake type bit, I've made some little 1x3 bits with a sort of red stripe, a black stripe with a fin on, and then a grey, and that can go like that on that one and like that on that one. So when I put them together, they join perfectly like that. So that's just a bit of texture for the water intake on the front there. I think that would be really nice. And then at the back, I'm going to need some propulsion now, because we got rid of the great big wheels. So I think I'm going to have something like this on the inside with a Technic pin on the back. Ugh, in order to, well, mount a great big propeller on or something like that, or maybe dual propellers. So that's looking pretty streamlined. I think I do need to take out that 2x3 brick rather to get this sort of mounted up. Oh, and that one. we're really stripping this back, but I do want to keep the kind of shape at the top, and that's why I haven't taken it completely apart. But oh, there you go, just holding it together. Probably going to need some bricks in between, but that looks pretty swish if you ask me. In fact, maybe that just needs to go back one stud, which it can't at the moment, but we'll sort that out. Cool. So yeah, what do we think of that? It's looking pretty powerful now, I think you'll agree. Now I think I need to tidy up the back and get the propeller on as well. Yeah, I'll play with it a little bit more. Right, well, success there. That's all sort of joined up together, exactly how I envisaged, with the, well, relatively seamless gap in the underside, looking nice. And the added bonuses, this is pretty much watertight now. There's some very small, slim gaps you can see down there where another bracket piece wouldn't fit, or at least it would, but it would start sticking out of the bottom of this line. So I've left it off, but it's definitely more enclosed than it ever used to be, so I'm happy with that. And we've still got that lovely shape that I really enjoy. In fact, I can make it slightly smoother now. If I just take off that and add in a tile, that'll make it nice. And I think I want to cover these two studs as well, and I figure I may as well just use more of these grill pieces to make it look even more revved up. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. Then I can add this setup back, except for now I'm going to get rid of the grey ones of these modified bricks and replace them with the red ones I've got in there, just so we don't have any sort of leakage of colour coming out. So there we go. That and that on there, and I think I'll have a red plate in here as well, just to get rid of that grey. Oh, can't get that off. Where's me brick separator? Oh, I'm having real trouble with that. And the original had some red and green lights on it as well on the top of this. The one I got didn't, so I have to do that. So green is green is starboard and right, that's right. And port is red and it's passed to the left, so there we go. So we can put that on there, and that's looking better already. Very nice. Cool, let's get our man in as well. Gives it all scale. This is where it doesn't close. No, it does close. Yes, so this is a fitting tribute to Atlantis. I said earlier I didn't have any other Atlantis plans for the cabinet. I meant of the red submarines rather than of all these sort of creatures, all the sort of, are they baddies? I don't know. The residents of the depths. They'll be featuring prominently, probably mainly as the bottom of my cabinets. Anyway, so that's looking very streamlined, but I figure I wanted something even more streamlined on the back, and I was figuring like a cone as kind of a tail, making it look even more bullet shaped would be good. And that will mean I just have to put another bracket in at the back, kind of squeezed in there. Push that back together, and that can go on like that. Oh yes, that looks like it cut through the water very quickly indeed. And because I've decided to put that in, it's pretty much killed off the idea of having one of these large propellers. I was thinking that would look really good, but then also I don't really like this because these really should be used in pairs, contra-rotating, going opposite ways to balance out all the torque. Because if you just have one and you turned on the engine, it would probably start spinning this rather than this. Anyone who's not held a power jaw very firmly will attest to that. So yeah, I think I need a dual set of propellers on the back. So I'm going to use this Technic beam just to kind of split one pin into two, a suitable distance apart. And I could use these black ones to keep the colour scheme right, but then I figured, I don't know, is that a bit too samey? So instead of black, which I could add if I don't like the silver, I think I'll add silver ones. Bit more of a colour contrast, but quite interesting. Oh, and I've got a stud in there. So I'm just going to put a 1x2 curved slope in there. Oh yes, that is looking sleek now. So we've got one sort of back to here, then one back to there, and then the big wedge brick back to there. That does look very organised indeed. It's almost like I planned it. Then we can get the second one of the propellers on there. And they don't really hit the cone. They do a little bit, but in world, I don't think that little greys will really matter. So there we go. Look at that. That is looking rather swish. I think you'll agree. and that can go straight into my cabinet as a small build and a nice nod to Atlantis. And I figure the best way of putting it in is possibly to use this new pair of kind of connection pieces, or rather support pieces, to mount this on. So if I sort of put that onto the underside and that in the cabinet, this will be swooshing along at high speed. It almost needs a great big sort of stream of bubbles coming out of the back to represent all of that motion. But yeah, tell me what you think of that. And I think it's a good way of making use of a set that wasn't that much use in the first place. Rather big, I think you'll agree. So the other thing, actually, I realised that I haven't actually covered is whether to add the lights and the weapons back. And if I get rid of them, I can get rid of the connection points as well. I kind of like the idea of the lights, even though they're not very streamlined at all. And then the rockets, maybe people will like that because we do have lots of big sharks in the area. Let's try and get that back on. Kind of one gets in the way of the other to a degree, doesn't it? But there we go. So that's it with all of its additional stuff. See, the problem with that is it doesn't look very streamlined anymore, but then it does look quite tooled up. So it's a question of which you prefer, really. So that is with. Yeah, okay, so we need a vote, I think. In fact, let's have two votes. One is whether we want the weapons and the lights on this, or whether we want it super streamlined and really nice, and then I'll get rid of those connection points. And the second one is, I think we need a new name, because this can't be the Seabed Scavenger anymore. It's not on the Seabed. It hasn't got scavenging great big tools. So it needs to be something like, I don't know. No, can't think of one on the cuff. You'll have to get your creative hats on. But yeah, let's finish by putting this in the 20,000 bricks under the sea cabinet and see how it looks. Well, that's looking really good. Wow, the red really pops against the background, doesn't it? It really stands out and looks like it's floating on top of that new stand. I'm going to have to get some more of those. I really like the fact that you've got the seaweed visible underneath it in the background, much further back though, and the wreck over the top, of course. I mean, this thing could go anywhere, but I do quite like it where I've just first put it. So that is very nice to see indeed. And, you know, with it going sideways, I really like its sort of big engine look and its bullet shape. Well, not particularly bullet shaped, I suppose. Wedge shaped look with that tail and these propellers on the back. But you know what? I'm leaning towards taking those rockets and lights off to make it look like a real racer. I think that might be a little bit better. But as I say, let me know what you think and let me know what you want to name it. And talking about your suggestions, I've got some bedoings to give out. From last time we were in the cabinet, I've made a few changes. One that was very popular was to change the colour of these teeth on the skull rock from white to tan, and that just makes it a little less scary, quite frankly, a little less like it's had its teeth bleached. But otherwise I quite like the look of it falling apart with this bit made out of plates rather than a 1x1 round brick. So I'm very happy with that. So that gets a bedoing. Second bedoing for somebody who just said maybe break up the skull a little bit by adding one more fish in front of it, just hanging off the corner. So I really like that. So here is your bedoing. And then the funniest suggestion, there are a few about the mer people, but one was just to give Dad, who is in that cave, who's quite hard to pick up in the current lighting setup, especially when it's focusing on the turtles, a mug. Like he's seen it all before and is very unfazed by it all. And obviously that's a very funny and ridiculous scene because, well, a mug really wouldn't work underwater, would it? So I kind of like the silliness of that. I'm a big fan of the silly, as you know. So yeah, a good bedoing for that one as well. So yeah, keep your suggestions coming. I think the cabinet's shaping up even more with that addition of a beautiful red submarine. And we can look at it through the water. This is how it would look from the surface. Yeah, and it's looking pretty good there as well. So, fantastic. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. And on Wednesday's video, we'll be doing another brick haul. And if you want to send something to a brick haul, like a Seabed Scavenger for me to adapt and play around with, then do so to the usual address. And then after that, we'll be doing another video, potentially in the cabinet, potentially in the fairground, or maybe just something in a city. Who knows? I don't. So until then, see you! Maybe it does need its rockets for these sharks.